Welcome back to the Level 10 Leaders podcast, and I'm your host, Ryan Castle. This is the show for operators, founders, and leadership teams who want fewer fights, better decisions, and results that actually stick. Today's guest is Jonathan B. Smith, JBS, and this is a big one. Jonathan is the co-author of the new book, Fight Less, Win More, written with Derek Gaunt from the Black Swan Group, with a foreword by Chris Voss. The book launches January 13, 2026 and is being positioned as the missing operating manual to never split the difference. If you've read Voss's work and thought, this is powerful, but how do I actually use it day to day? This book was written for you. In this conversation, we dig into Jonathan's leadership philosophy, stay curious, be kind and listen, commit to excellence, and make hard choices without damaging trust. We talk about how these principles show up in real leadership moments, building credibility, having tough conversations, and developing leaders who don't just manage tasks, but actually move people. We explore how Jonathan thinks about scale and impact, why leadership capability is often the real constraint, and where systems like ours at Level 10 Leaders fit when organizations need stronger LMA capability, not more strategy decks. If you care about leading better, negotiating smarter, fighting less while winning more, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Jonathan B. Smith, welcome along to the Level 10 Leaders podcast. So great to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure, Ryan. Good to see you.
Great. Now, can I call you JBS during the show?
Of course.
Okay, I love that. Alrighty, we like to start off with some fast fact questions, JBS, and just let our audience get to know you a little bit. So let's fire away with some of those. Are you a breakfast or dinner kind of person?
Breakfast.
Yeah. What's your choice of champions for breakfast?
I'm a keto guy, so protein.
Okay. What was on the menu this morning?
2 scrambled eggs, and I had some oatmeal. So more like paleo.
If on holiday, are you likely to be found bungee jumping, doing something super adventurous, or are you more likely to be on the pool lounger relaxing?
Always doing something adventurous. My battle cry is freedom and adventure.
I love that. Is there a particular adventure you've done recently that comes to mind? Can you share with us?
I'm a pilot. I always like to take the plane somewhere. So
okay.
We took it to Florida last time. DA-62.
Awesome. And do you have any kind of military background? Were you Air Force, or is it just a hobby for you?
Just a hobby. Lucky to have my licenses and had the opportunity to fly.
Oh, fun. I look forward to getting an invite on the plane.
All right, be nice to me.
Okay. Oh, nice. You're not really a guy that rolls with nice, though. You like challenge. So
of course.
We'll see how we go. Okay. Routine-wise, are you an early riser or a night owl?
Early, always.
Are you an exercise in the morning person as well?
I always like to exercise at like 11. That's where my biorhythm prefers, but modern life doesn't allow it unless I'm not working.
Yeah,
typically.
That's a little tricky to structure. Okay. If you were sitting down for a movie at nighttime, what kind of genre would you be going for? Would it be thriller, comedy, horror? What's your thing?
Action.
Good man. I like that.
Freedom and adventure.
Yeah, there we go. I feel like we've got some themes coming through strong already, JBS. I like that. JBS, with our guests, we like to dig into the areas of expertise and always like our guests to kind of bring 3 kind of high-level topics that we can explore a bit further. I know you've kindly done some prep for us on those. Could you share maybe your top 3? And then we'll dig into those as we go.
Yeah, so my top 3, stay curious, be kind and listen. That's number 1. Number 2, commit to being excellent at something. Differentiation matters in this world. And number 3, make the hard decisions. Can't tell you how many clients I've seen who've just worked over and over and over on a hard decision. And in the end, they made the decision they should have made 3 years ago and didn't, and then regretted wasting all the time.
Yeah. And the other observation I have is when people do that, when they finally make the hard decision, they're often like, oh, that actually wasn't so bad after all. There's so much time thinking and pondering and going, okay, let's build a bit of background to these 3 things. I like them. Can you give us a bit of insight to some background? What's been formative for you in your kind of business career, life? What are some of the things that have led you to hit these kind of 3 top level topics?
Well, I try to work in corporate and I'm unemployable. So I always thought I was an entrepreneur, but then coming out of school, my dad ended up going bankrupt pretty much when I got out of school. So I went and worked in corporate. So Arthur Andersen, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank. And I was like, I feel like a fish out of water. Sure. And so that sort of led me to be an entrepreneur. And some of my friends say I order off menu. So I don't see the world the same way everybody else does. I see the world as a world of opportunity. And that's why I like negotiation so much and the concept of staying curious, because if you stay curious, there may be opportunities you never even imagined available to you, but you have to be open to the possibilities.
And when you decided to depart corporate, what was your first venture?
The first thing I did was my brother had a web development company. So this was like in 1999 and we called it web development. And then I taught myself search engine optimization in 2001. Before anyone really understood it. Had an offer from Sheryl Sandberg at Google to go to Google in 2003. And I was like, I am not going back to corporate. That was maybe a mistake, but ended up working with my dad. He had built a floating security barrier, so a fence that floats on the water to stop a waterborne IED attack, like what happened in the port of Aden in Yemen with the USS Cole. So I built search engine optimization around this product called Whisperwave, and it was ended up being able to sell over $100 million in product in the Gulf. Wow. So, and got directly to the Royals. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Who knew the Royals used Google to find out what to buy, right?
All you had to do was like go long tail and figure out long tail. And Google was going to tell us. We weren't going to tell them. We just built out a bunch of long tail search engine pages that I just made the strategy up myself at the time, but it worked really well. And it was highly niche.
Sure. And is that SEO capability something you stay close to now? Is that still something you'd call an expertise?
No. I mean, I understand the concept, but it's gotten much more technical. And at some point it got commoditized and I just didn't want to run a professional services business.
Yeah. I hear you on that one. In that landscape, boy, it's changing wildly with the advent of AI happening now as well. So it's a pretty interesting space. Tell us a bit more about Stay Curious. Where else have you found you've been able to uncover opportunity because you've stayed curious?
Well, I was able to, like we talked earlier, my book, Fight Less, Win More, is written in collaboration with Chris Voss and the Black Swan Group. So Chris wrote the foreword. Derek Gaunt is the head coach at the Black Swan Group, and it's designed as the missing manual for Never Split the Difference. So there's a book, there's Traction for EOS, and there's another book called What the Heck is EOS? If we were doing like SAT comparisons, this would be the same. Never Split the Difference is to Fight Less, Win More, as Traction is to What the Heck is EOS? So that model's proven. And I'm looking forward to sharing that wisdom with everybody.
Okay. And what was it about the negotiation sphere that interests you so much?
I've always been interested in negotiation. I think negotiations are dynamic. Chris and I met in DC before he had the book, Never Split the Difference. I actually helped him with a negotiation in Abu Dhabi before I knew he was a negotiator. And then I've been his EOS implementer since 2016. So I was around Chris and the Black Swan team for the better part of the last 10 years. And then to be around negotiators and actually be able to learn the skills and realize that there are techniques, it's actually like it's like learning a second language or another language. Mm-hmm. So it's been fantastic. And I've just had the privilege of being around the best negotiators in the world. And I'm fascinated and enthusiastic and excited about the opportunities ahead.
Great. And JBS, can you share an example from the book of high stakes negotiation and maybe take us a little deeper into what occurred and some of the skills that he used?
One of them I'm thinking of, I had to have some surgery at the hospital, and I was arguing with the hospital and the insurance company about how the payments were going to be done. And there were parts of the agreement parts of the surgery that were covered and parts that weren't covered. And so the part that wasn't covered, I was able to negotiate the number down from like $18,000 to $5,000 just by using the skills. Because my point was, if the insurance company had paid for it, they would have only paid the $5,000. So why am I paying $18,000? And I was able to get them to agree to do the surgery. And
you still got the full surgery? They didn't discount what they did to you? No,
I don't know. They left a couple parts out.
Look, a couple of parts, but hey, you seem to be getting along pretty well. So yeah, they weren't that important anyway, right?
Yeah, well, okay. I knew they were willing to take less from someone else, so why shouldn't I get the same deal that the insurance company would get?
Indeed. And when you thought about approaching that negotiation, is there a particular framework that you detail in the book that you followed in that negotiation process?
Well, it starts with staying curious, like trying to understand their perspective, removing myself as a threat. So if I came on the call and was screaming and yelling at the counterpart, that wasn't going to work. I happened to also have a client who was CEO of a major health insurance company, not the one I work with, but he knew someone on the health insurance side, and the health insurance people were actually able to negotiate with the hospital with people who I couldn't get access to. So by being a nice person, people are 6 times more likely to do a deal with someone they like. So using the skills, it's hard to like lay out the exact skills because it was a pretty complex negotiation over a couple of weeks, but they're all in the book. And the beauty is that I am a practitioner of the skills, an entrepreneur, not a hostage negotiator, formerly trained at Quantico. And I'm the only one on the team who actually has the entrepreneurial skills and not the law enforcement background.
And you said stay curious, be kind, and listen. Is that what you've just been talking about there? Be kind, is that an element of it sets you up really well for negotiation, or is that more some kind of like inner core for you about being kind?
Basically, people are just wishing that someone else would hear them and understand them. And so my version of a kind is like, hear them and have them feel understood. If you can remove yourself as a threat, your first thing in the negotiation is remove yourself as a threat. If I'm on the other end of the line screaming at someone, I am a threat to them somehow. We say, don't piss someone off who could hurt you by doing nothing, meaning click, hang up, or say no. Mm-hmm. So start with just trying to understand them. If they feel understood by you, that's a form of kindness and listening to them. And if they do, they're likely to go out of their way to try to help you in ways you didn't even know were possible.
Sure. Human nature, right? Yeah, it's good insight.
It seems really simple. The execution is not so simple.
Yes, and I imagine execution when the stakes get higher and higher and higher. So talking about your law enforcement people, when they're in a hostage negotiation, when the stakes are very high, trying to stay in that frame must be difficult. Sure, that's why they get trained in it. And then as entrepreneurs, we both know that the stakes in business can get very high as well. So again, being able to maintain composure and kindness in that environment, definitely a skill.
That's why we suggest you do low stakes practice. So the skills are available when you have to do high stakes practice. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I'm trying to close a real estate transaction and the attorney sent me a note this morning and he's like, did you get the loan commitment yet? And I could have been like, yeah, I got it weeks ago. Instead, my question back to him was, it seems like there's a reason you're asking about the loan commitment, because there's a reason behind him asking me about the loan commitment. Well, he goes, yeah, I just wanted to know because if we don't withdraw from the deal by Friday, you lose your deposit. So I got the information out of him without responding to him like, yeah, dummy, I got it 3 weeks ago. I got him to tell me why he was asking.
Oh, good example. I like that. Okay. Let's move to your second insight, JBS, which is commit to excellence at something. Give us the background on this one.
Yeah. So in EOS, Don Tinney has always talked about this path to mastery. Like, we actually never get to complete mastery, but we are on a path to mastery. And the idea here is, in a world where AI's taking jobs or competing with people in traditional roles, expertise is actually, people are willing to pay a lot of money for expertise. They are not willing to pay a lot of money for generalists. And so I think if I were to advise a younger person, I would say, become an expert in something. It's interesting. If you looked at my 3 uniques, I am an expert EOS implementer. Like, I've done 1,500 sessions and had 50 exits with 150 companies. I am an expert. One of the things with Black Swan tactical empathy techniques is I didn't want to get on a stage and not actually be able to use the skills to respond to someone, because there's always going to be a heckler somewhere. So I did that. And then the other thing is, my expertise is like, I can sort of see where the money is. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, my expertise is in doing strategic IDS. How do we structure a business to go execute in a way that optimizes and maximizes outcomes? So I was talking to a client the other day and he's like, that's what you're best at. Once you get that in place, take another implementer and have them go run EOS. But you have to get the strategy set up.
Quick break. If you're serious about scaling your EOS business, listen up. Here's the truth. Most companies stall because their managers can't lead. We built a system to fix it. At Level 10 Leaders, we turn managers into leaders so you can step back, scale up, or sell with confidence. Here's a quick win. Take 3 minutes to get a data-driven report of your team's LMA, leadership, management, and accountability strength. Uncover your biggest growth gaps. Take the LMA quiz now at lvl10.us/LMA. It's fast, and I'll show you exactly where your team is getting stuck. Let's get back into the podcast. Can you share an example of an organization you worked with where you were able to unpack that with them? And you don't have to share names of the organization. You can keep it, confidential if that's required, but would like to know more about that.
Yeah, so it was really interesting this morning. I had a client who I met with. He's a union plumber in New York City. When he showed up as a client, he wasn't getting along with his family. His business wasn't making money. The bank was upset with him. Everything. It was like pulling his hair out. And on the board, we wrote, I want to own an Aston Martin. I want to have X number of dollars in the bank. I want to have a business that's built to sell that I could sell if I want to, and I want to have a great life with my family. And there was one day where I wrote all of the general contractors that he worked with. And I basically said, okay, there's two options: easy, lucrative, and fun. This is a Joe Polish idea. Easy, lucrative, and fun. That's ELF. Or hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. Half. Thank you, Joe. And the idea was there was 20 general contractors on the board, and we ended up with 6. I said, well, we're going to fire those 14. We're not going to work with them. We're only going to do healthcare and life sciences jobs because we know those jobs pay well and they're good counterparties, and we like the work and it's highly specialized. And the client drove his Aston Martin this morning to come see me with a big smile on his face. So awesome. That's what it's all about.
What was the timeline on that from when you first wrote those goals on the board to arriving?
No, it was probably 3 years ago. We started 5 years ago, and then we probably got to those goals 3 years ago. And then they haven't really worked with me probably for the last 18 months, but that's because we fixed the business. And then a bunch of the union plumbers went out of business in New York City, which created a bunch of opportunity for him. So I'm like a member of the family at this point. I generally say I want to be like the 12th man on the team.
Nice. I like that. Have you got another example of maybe at a personal level, how you've helped an entrepreneur really hone in on their excellence?
I have a client who, when he started, I was like, I think you're too small. You're too small to do EOS. He's like, we can afford it. And so one of his theories was he ran on the Dave Ramsey model, no debt. We grew the business on no debt, selling into big box, and big box meaning like Walmart, sure, Costco, Target, any of the big box supermarkets pretty much. And, we've been friends for like the last 10 years. They call me the herd sire when I show up. Like I'm in charge of the room. I have a command presence. And they literally bought me a Benelli Super Eagle shotgun because I go hunting with them when I go down to see them, inscribed with the herd sire on it. And we still talk like once or twice a month and talk about, we went from being in 2 states to all 50 states. We went from, doing not just, they mostly deal with nuisance bird problems inside of the grocery stores across the country. We were trapping originally, and now their business is actually evolving to other things. And I've just been supportive of him all along the way, and vice versa. So it's nice to have good friends.
And James, how do you feel like you've helped that person unpack their excellence? Was there a personal component to the excellence that person's developed, or do you feel the excellence has more been around the organization strategy, etc.?
The excellence is around just him being able to let go and us hiring the right people. So he has an integrator and someone in the finance seat and someone in the ops seat, so he can just be the visionary and spend his time riding his Harley Davidson, or he'll send me pictures of his hunting or fishing or whatever he likes to do, and giving him freedom. Like he said, we still use the same model you built like on day 2 of EOS, and say, this is how the model's going to work. And in fact, we're actually producing more profit than you expected because we can do more profit at scale. So he's just getting the economies of scale at this point. But he said, 12 years later, we're still running the same model you created.
Great. Awesome. Love that. Okay, let's talk about being courageous and making hard choices. We talked a little bit at the top of the podcast about this one. How do you exhibit this in your personal life? And then how do you encourage your clients to do this? So let's start with the personal.
In the personal life, it's just, being able to have hard conversations. One of the advantages of having the tactical empathy skills is I'm able to be super direct while not screaming or sounding by removing myself as a threat. So my assistant Brittany always says you can say something so direct yet still be kind. So for example, I have bad news. We did not select you. Right. So the goal is I have bad news. We didn't select you. My goal is that, this wasn't the right project for you, but maybe there's another project that later on that may come up. I would prefer to have friends in the world and leave people feeling well treated. And so that's one of the beauties of having the skills.
Okay. And do you feel like that is a skill that you have always had innately? So, were you the kid in school that could tackle the difficult conversations, or do you feel like these have been skills that you've developed over time?
I definitely think knowing the tactical empathy skills have improved it. Like I might have not have been afraid to say things, but they wasn't always said in the best way or received on the other end as being constructive. So having some tools to be able to be more constructive with it and having confidence around those skills puts me in a position where I'm willing to be even more direct.
Okay. And can you unpack maybe just one of the tactical empathy skills for us that's in the book, whet our appetite a little bit so we can...
the one I'll share a couple. Like the one I shared with you is an accusations audit. When I say to you, I have bad news, you're like, oh, did my kid just get in an accident? Is my wife leaving me? One of my parents sick and in the hospital. And I just go, yeah, we're not going to do this deal. And you're like, oh, that's not so bad. So I literally set you up and your brain immediately goes to what all the bad things that could be happening. And I'm like, well, we're not doing a deal. And you go, oh, okay, it's not so bad. So that's an accusations audit. What we're trying to do is neutralize the negative thoughts in your mind because you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. Mm-hmm. So, and if I take the negative thoughts off the table, meaning like all the negative thoughts you might have about the deal, it now doesn't get in the way of us making a deal. So it's kind of like noise canceling. I just call it it's basically like emotion canceling, negative emotion canceling. This is a more complicated skill, but I will tell you what it is and show it to you, and we can talk about it a little more. But so there's something called an iMessage, and an iMessage is when someone has repeatedly demonstrated bad behavior. So for example, let's just say someone repeatedly shows up late all of the time. When you show up late, it makes me feel disrespected. And as a result, I'm not sure that we can work together again. So it's three pieces. When whatever the behavior is, there's a feeling, it makes me feel a certain way. And then there's some fear of loss. The fear of loss is I'm afraid we're not going to be able to work together anymore. So that is another way to deliver. And that's an assertive move. It's one of the only ways that we're going to deliver an assertive, like about me message. But that's after repeated bad behavior. Person showed up 5 times late and you're just like, I don't trust that they're going to come. I don't know that they're going to fulfill their obligations. I don't think I can work with them.
And unpack that a little bit more for us. So you're obviously identifying the behavior. There's a feeling component. What is it about that approach that is it help the message land more clearly? Are you trying to initiate a particular response or behavior response from the recipient of that message?
I just want to make sure they heard what I said. So I'm going to say, here's your behavior. Here's how it makes me feel. So far, they don't care. Now, I'm going to tell you what your fear of loss is. So, fear is the greatest motivator of human behavior. So like FOMO, for example, an implementer, I didn't think he was acting particularly abundance minded, and he was annoying me. He just kept calling me and trying to box me out of a deal. I'm like, look, the client will decide who they want to work with. But I literally said to him, when you repeatedly tell me how to behave, it makes me feel like we're not on the same team. And as a result, I don't think you're referable. And he's like, you don't think I'm referable? The only piece he heard was, you don't think I'm referable, right? But because he was worried I have a bunch of leads, he was worried that I wouldn't send him a lead. So it was a fear of loss that really was, that's really what the driver is. You have to drop the fear of loss as a third item.
Do you adjust the way that message is delivered based on the outcome you're seeking? So if we go back to your first example, the person's turning up to work late, would you adjust the message if they're a valuable person and you really just want to correct that behavior and have them remain on the team? Or would you do it differently if you're like, time's up here, I'm out, it's all over?
Yeah, I mean, we say situations drives tactics. So you really have to decide what tactic to use. This is one tactic based on repeated bad behavior. And you want to really, basically take out a 2x4 and hit the person in the head, over the head with it. I might, with a high performing person, I may coach them before I got to that point. It's when I've coached them 4 or 5 times and said, you just can't walk in and think you're the best salesperson in the office and just drop all the work on the sales assistant or a sales ops person and be unkind to them. So, that's a lot of times we see that behavior from the sales team and not treating the backstage folks well. Okay. And that's an example.
It's a good one. And JB, so let's talk more about the book. How long has this project been going for you? Give us some background.
All right. So we put it in about 5 years. So a long time. This is about mastery, commitment to, we basically said if it's not a 5-star book, we're not doing the book. We did not want to write Never Split the Difference 2. We were never going to write a better book than Never Split the Difference. And it just took us 3 tries to get it right. So, and originally Chris was going to be on the book with me. And eventually on the 3rd try, we decided to have Derek on the book as the subject matter expert and my co-author, because he could put the boundaries around, like, how do the skills need to be taught? And so he was just a great collaborator. And
when you were writing the book, who did you have in mind that you were writing it for?
So the TAM, the total addressable market for negotiation, is very, very large, much bigger than EOS. Which is interesting. So it's anyone. They typically have to be highly ambitious because they have to want to get better. That's where my commitment to excellence comes from. They have to want to get better at negotiations and realize that anytime I want or I need is in their head, they're in a negotiation, whether they like it or not. That's with your toddler, with your teenager, with your spouse, with, your landlord, with your neighbor, with your boss, with your client. So the TAM is massive for this book, and it's anyone who wants to get better at negotiations and is willing to commit to it.
And when is the book being released?
January 13th on Amazon. Fight Less, Win More. It's by Jonathan Smith and Derek Gaunt.
Great. And we'll make sure we put a link to that in the episode show notes as well.
That would be great.
Is there a section of the book that you particularly enjoyed writing? Was it your area of excellence that you were able to really dive deep in a particular area of the book?
So learning tactical empathy is like learning another language. So it's hard to say there's one. You may have go-to skills that you like. The part I loved about writing the book was writing it with Derek. So every time we would get together, I would learn something new. I was getting coached by one of the world's best negotiators. And, the thing that really resonated for me was the levels of listening. So I really think that everyone has to start with being a better listener. We have 5 levels of listening. So listening for the gist, it's like you're on your phone shaking your head and I'm supposed to think you're listening to me. You're not. Or your kids are playing their video game and they say they're listening to you. There's listening to hijack that looks like this. You're in a meeting. Someone has their hand up as soon as you take a breath. They jump in and take the conversation somewhere completely different. It's sort of like, I have a cold, I'm feeling crummy. And they're like, oh, I had a cold last week. Like, how is that helpful? Not helpful at all. Listening for logic. That's basically like, there's a reason someone said something. So for example, with the attorney this morning, when I said, it seems like there's a reason you're asking, there was a logical reason he was asking. I just used a label to get him to tell me why, instead of saying, why are you asking me? Which, sort of means could feel like I'm attacking him. And then 4th level, listening for logic and emotion. So the idea is not only is there a logical reason they're saying that, but there might be an emotional component behind it. And then the 5th level and the highest level is listening for their point of view. What we say is you don't have to agree with their point of view, but you have to understand their point of view. And if you don't understand their point of view, they won't necessarily feel heard. The best you can do is stay in level 3 listening. When you're really dialed in, you can be in level 5 listening, but you can't stay there for too long. 30 minutes will feel like 8 hours. You're just totally dialed into what they're saying.
So the mental energy consumed by being at level 5 is exhausting, is that what you're saying?
Exhausting. But you could stay at level 3, and you have to accept the fact that you're going to go fall back to level 2.
Sure.
It's going to happen. So you just have to be kind to yourself and just acknowledge that, oh, I fell back to level 2. That awareness now puts you in the ability to see that you should go back to level 3.
Great. Well, JBS, I really hope the book is read very wide, because it sounds like just those listening skills, if more of the population at large could have those listening skills and maybe be kind and listen, we'd probably be in a better place as a country. So thank you for taking 5 years to commit excellence. I'm sure the rest of us will get some real value out of reading the book. And again, we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes so people can get to the book. I guess part of the book journey project is only just beginning. You've done the writing bit. You've now got a launch coming up around the book. What's your launch going to look like?
It looks like someone offered their apartment that'll hold 85 people to have a launch party there. So that'll be, hopefully that comes off. We're working on logistics there. We have a PR team that's working on media opportunities. I have a LinkedIn Learning coming out a little later, probably later Q2 with Derek. There will be a speaking tour. There will be a book tour. There is an AI negotiation agent that I built and done 400 negotiations with. There'll be lots of opportunity. My focus has mostly been on getting the launch right. And then we have a big conference in Dallas. It's March 2nd and 3rd, and I'll be keynoting there. So I have a keynote coach to help me get my keynote right, because Chris is the best in the world at that. So I've got a lot of work to do.
Seeking excellence. I like that. And if people want to connect with you, maybe have you come to their organization and speak, what would be the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. It's Stay Curious and then JBS.com. So staycuriousjbs.com.
That's great. Hey, JBS, it's been wonderful to have you on the show today, and appreciate you sharing some of those insights and wisdom and mastery with us today.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Just hope to make a little dent in the world.
Indeed. Disclaimer: Level 10 Leaders is an independent podcast and leadership development platform. It is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by EOS Worldwide LLC. EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, Level 10 meeting, and related trademarks are trademarks of EOS Worldwide and are used here for informational purposes only. Thanks for tuning in to Level 10 Leaders. If today's episode hit home, here's what you need to do. Take the LMA quiz. Go to lvl10.us/LMA. It's fast and reveals what's holding you back. Hit subscribe and share this with one person who needs to break through the ceiling and crush their growth goals. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll show you exactly how to level up to level 10.